Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr. This is episode 254 of CryptoBiography, and it is part 2 of The Anti-Artist. And here we go. I don't know. I'm going to have some people work on this, see if they can figure out where it's coming from. Because if we can't figure that out, then all we can do is wait. And wait, they did. Valerie had some tech people trying to track down where the original program came from, but it had been well hidden, and they kept running into dead ends. They tell me that they will track it down, but probably not before the timer runs out. Valerie messaged Tom early the next day, with 8 hours to go on the countdown. Tom hadn't slept well, and had found himself going back to his computer several times that night and watching the numbers tick down. Nothing special happened when he did so, yet he couldn't stop himself. He decided not to let Valerie in on this fact. He thought it was likely that the circles under his eyes told the story well enough. They met up 2 hours before the countdown timer finished, at her office. Though the techs hadn't been able to track down the source, they had set up a rig for everyone to watch the countdown and anything it led to, record it, and even transmit it. Valerie's company was print media, but they knew this could be big news, and they were going to make bank with it by letting certain outlets have access to the feed. It would be a risk for those other companies. It could be another Al Capone's vault fiasco. But if it turned out to be big, it would be worth it. Valerie also quizzed him more. So when you saw these investment companies being uncooperative regarding Mondrian's, that's what made you call me, right? Well, yes. And what do you think it means? I don't know, but something's wrong. The first time around, we had trouble with Mondrian's mostly, and now it's happening again. Something's happening, and it's related to Mondrian. Well, what do you think it is? What is it about Mondrian that might cause something to happen? I'm not sure. He's one of the preeminent modernist artists of the 20th century. And what does that mean? Well, modernism is a sort of loose set of philosophies of art, thinking, literature, and so on, all about finding new ways of thinking. A lot of folks feel it starts in the late 1800s, but to me it really gets going after World War I, which shocked the sensibilities and, for many artists, forced them to confront the fact that both religion and Enlightenment thinking had, on a basic level, failed. They set out to try to find ways of thinking and expressing themselves that would reflect things that had been unexamined, ignored, or outright banned before. So you get nihilism, you get people thinking about their interior selves with Freudianism and Jungian thought. You get extreme non-representational works in the visual arts. For Mondrian, he hoped to find in art something going beyond reality itself. He said that art should be above reality, or otherwise it would have no value for man. His art style he termed neoplasticism, and he meant it to be non-representational and to find a sort of universal beauty. This is why a lot of his most important works have the same flavor. He decided to stick to the primary colors, to black, white, and gray, and to horizontal and vertical lines. By not being representational, you see, he felt it could be more universal. And because he was successful, he influenced other painters, other visual arts, and even things like interior decoration and architecture. A lot of what we think of as mid-20th century owes a lot to him. He was Dutch, right? Yes, but he was living in Paris when World War I broke out. He was away from Paris when it happened, so he stayed in the Netherlands until the end of the war. Then he moved back to Paris and was there a good long time, until World War II broke out in the late 30s. Then he went to London and New York City. Any chance this whole thing has to do with him being Dutch or working where he worked? Tom thought for a while. I can't say. Not enough information. Maybe it's about modernism itself or what it represented. Possible. They watched the countdown, now glumly. Neither of them talked about what was topmost on Tom's mind. What was an anti-artist, and why did the unknown person call himself that? He found himself dreading the answer. The countdown ticked away, minutes, then seconds, and then it hit 0. Immediately, the page reloaded. A video started up. At first, it was black. It stayed that way for a moment, then a couple of minutes. Tom glanced over at Valerie, but she was intent on the video. He realized he wasn't breathing properly, and he took several deep breaths, slowly, so as not to let Valerie know he had stopped breathing, though he couldn't say exactly why that mattered. Then the screen lightened, going from black to gray. Then details started to become clear. It was a video of a warehouse. And that's the episode for this week. Obviously, we're getting pretty close to the big climax and conclusion. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm certainly enjoying writing it. Although obviously it was a little short this week, but I kind of decided I needed to break it off there rather than, just after there. So there'll be a little bit, there's stuff that's coming that just isn't, didn't show up this week is all. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, and thanks for listening. Words and music copyright 2022, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.